Movies make the apocalypse look like non-stop action, but real survival is way less dramatic and way more practical. It's basically a long, stressful version of camping, where clean water, warm shelter, and simple routines matter more than looking tactical. In this video, we're going through 20 basic skills that feel boring in normal life, but turn into absolute superpowers when systems get shaky. No panic, no fantasy, just practical, beginner-friendly preparedness that helps you stay calm, safe, and functional when things don't go as planned. Number 1. Make water non-negotiable. If you picture an apocalypse, most people imagine action scenes. Realistically, it's more like a long blackout mixed with supply chain chaos, and the thing that ends most plans isn't drama. It's dehydration and stomach problems. Your first superpower is knowing how to turn questionable water into boring, safe water. That starts with a simple mindset. You don't find water, you build a water routine. You identify sources near home tap, water heater, rain catch, nearby streams, and you already know which ones are risky. Clear water can still be dirty. If you're a beginner prepper, the easiest win is learning the safe basics. Filter first to remove gunk, then disinfect to handle the invisible stuff. Boiling is the old school option that doesn't rely on fancy chemistry. Bring water to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute, and if you're at high elevation, keep it boiling longer. A common rule is 3 minutes above about 6,500 feet. And if you use a store-bought filter, learn what it does and doesn't do, because not every filter handles every risk. The superpower part is speed and confidence. While everyone else is debating whether that stream looks fine, you're already drinking safely and moving on. Number 2, carry and store water like a logistics nerd. After you understand purification, the next step is the unglamorous truth. Water is heavy, awkward, and annoying. If you can't store it without leaks, or carry it without wrecking your back, you're going to waste energy fast. This is where beginner prepping becomes real life. You want containers you can actually handle, nothing that turns into a sloshing, back-breaking nightmare. Think in layers: small bottles for daily use, medium jugs you can lift comfortably, and a couple larger containers that stay put. Label them, keep caps clean, and store them somewhere stable and cool. Then comes the skill most people skip: rotation. It's not stockpile and forget, it's use and replace. Put a piece of tape on containers with dates and cycle through them like groceries. If you're doing family preparedness, make it a routine like taking out the trash, predictable, boring, and automatic. Another underrated part is transport planning. Know how you'd move water if you had to. A sturdy tote, a simple cart, even a backpack setup that keeps your hands free. In an urban prepping situation, stairs, elevators out, long hallways. This matters more than people think. The superpower isn't strength. It's having a system that keeps you hydrated without draining your time and energy. Number 3, cook simple food without guessing. Once water is handled, food becomes the next stress point. Not because you need gourmet meals, but because you need predictable calories with minimal waste. In a crisis, the cool skill isn't hunting something dramatic. It's knowing how to cook basic staples well, with whatever heat source you have, and not getting yourself sick. If you're prepping for beginners, start with the boring trio: rice, pasta, beans, oats. Learn how they behave, how much water they actually need, and how to make them edible when you're tired and your brain feels fried. Then learn basic food safety. Keep raw and cooked food separate. Don't leave perishable food hanging around in the danger zone for hours. And when in doubt, don't gamble on weird smells. A lot of emergency preparedness tips sound dramatic, but food safety is where things quietly go wrong. The superpower is being able to open a random pantry mix canned veg, dry carbs, a little oil, some seasoning, and turn it into something filling. Also, get comfortable with one-pot logic. Fewer dishes, less water used, easier cleanup, less chance of attracting pests. Cooking in tough conditions is basically solving 3 problems at once: heat management, fuel saving, and morale. And yes, morale counts. Warm food makes people calmer, which makes every other skill easier. Number 4, Manage fire without making it a personality. Fire is useful, but it's also the fastest way to turn a bad week into a disaster. The real skill isn't looking impressive, it's being safe and efficient. You want to understand fire as a tool. Controlled heat for cooking, boiling, warmth, and drying things out. If you're new to prepping and survival, don't make it complicated. Learn how to set up a safe cooking area, how to shield a flame from wind, and how to keep the fire small while still getting the job done. Small fires are easier to feed, easier to hide from weather, and easier to control. Also, practice the habit that separates responsible people from chaos. Always have a plan to put it out. Water, dirt, a way to smother. Whatever fits the situation. If you're indoors, the fire skill often becomes heat management instead. Staying warm with layers, blocking drafts, using safe, approved heating options, and never turning your space into a smoke problem. This is one of those prepper essentials that sounds obvious until people panic and improvise badly. The superpower here is calm control. When everyone else is wasting fuel trying to make a bonfire, you're cooking with a steady little flame, keeping risk low and saving resources. Number 5. First aid is mostly prevention. In movies, first aid is a heroic moment. In real life, it's usually blisters, small cuts, burns, sprains, and I did something dumb because I was rushing. Your superpower is not getting hurt in the first place, and when something happens, keeping it from getting worse. Start with the basics that matter in a low-resource situation. Clean hands, clean wounds, clean bandages. Know how to apply direct pressure to bleeding, how to clean and cover a cut, and when something looks beyond DIY and needs real medical help. If you can, take a hands-on first aid class. Now seriously, it's one of the best preparedness moves because YouTube can't watch your technique and correct it. A huge part of emergency preparedness for beginners is building a kit you actually understand. Bandages you know how to use, tape that sticks, pain relief you can take safely, and simple tools like tweezers and scissors. Also, learn the small habits skill. Trim nails, deal with hot spots on your feet early, drink water before you're thirsty, and don't ignore infections. In a long emergency, a minor injury can become a major problem if you treat it like it's no big deal. The superpower is staying functional. You can have all the gear in the world, but if you can't walk comfortably, you're stuck. Number 6, hygiene and sanitation. Keep you alive. This is the part nobody wants on a prepper video thumbnail, but it's the truth. Staying clean is survival. When water is limited and trash pickup is gone, things get gross fast. Your apocalypse superpower is keeping your environment from turning into a sickness factory. Start simple. Hand hygiene before eating and after bathroom use, even if it's just a small amount of water with soap, or a safe sanitizer when water is scarce. Then think about waste. If plumbing is down, you need a plan that keeps waste contained, away from living space, and handled with care. Trash matters too. Food scraps attract rodents and bugs, and once pests move in, they don't politely leave. Beginner's Guide to Prepping should always mention the boring MVP items. Soap, heavy-duty trash bags, paper towels or rags, a way to wash clothes, and a way to dry things. Drying matters because damp fabric becomes a skin problem and a smell problem. In a home preparedness setup, you also want a dirty zone and a clean zone, even if it's just a corner by the door where shoes and outside gear stay. The superpower is not just avoiding illness, you're also keeping morale up. People handle stress way better when they don't feel disgusting all the time. Number 7, learn to read risk in real time. This skill looks invisible, but it changes everything. Situational awareness without paranoia. It's basically the habit of noticing what's normal, what's off, and what could turn into trouble. In an emergency, you don't need to be a spy, you just need to pay attention. What's the weather doing? Are people acting unusually tense? Are resources getting scarce in your area? Are you hearing consistent information from multiple sources, or just rumors bouncing around? A beginner prepper superpower is learning to pause before you act. Panic makes you burn calories, burn supplies, and make mistakes. A simple method is stop, scan, decide. Stop moving for a second. Scan your environment. Decide what matters right now. This also applies at home. If you smell something weird, if a device is overheating, if food storage got wet, catch the problem early, and you save yourself a much bigger headache later. In urban survival situations, awareness includes routes and timing. Which streets get crowded, which places become bottlenecks when it's smarter to stay put. The superpower isn't being fearless, it's being early. You spot the issue when it's still small, so your response can be calm and simple instead of dramatic and risky. Number 8. Navigate without depending on your phone. If you've always relied on GPS, a grid-down scenario gets confusing fast. Your superpower is knowing where you are and how to get where you need to go with low-tech tools and local knowledge. Start with the easiest win. Learn your area on purpose. Know the main roads, the back routes, the footpaths, the places that flood, and the locations of useful things like water sources, clinics, and community centers. Then add basic map skills, reading a simple street map or a printed topographic map, understanding landmarks, and estimating distance. If you want to be extra prepared, learn the basics of a compass, nothing fancy, just enough to keep a direction when visibility is bad or the signs are gone. In urban prepping, navigation also means vertical navigation, stairwells, exits, which buildings connect, where you can shelter from wind. And here's the underrated part: walking pace. If you know how long it takes you to walk a mile, you can plan realistically. People get into trouble because they assume they can just walk there, and then realize they've burned half the day and most of their energy. The superpower is moving with confidence instead of wandering and hoping. Number 9. Make shelter feel boring and stable. Shelter isn't just a roof, it's temperature control, staying dry, and getting real rest. When people talk survival, they jump to dramatic wilderness shelters, but most apocalypse situations are about making normal spaces workable. Apartments, houses, garages, cars, even a single room. Your skill is creating a stable microenvironment. Block drafts. Insulate the space you actually live in instead of trying to heat the whole building. Use simple barriers blankets, plastic sheeting, towels, whatever you have to reduce heat loss. Keep bedding off cold floors. Make sure you can ventilate safely if you're using any heat source, because stale air and fumes turn into a serious problem. Outdoors, the same principles apply. Stay dry, get off the ground, break the wind, and keep your body heat from leaking away. A lot of beginners think shelter is about building something. It's more about site choice and small improvements. Even a tarp is powerful if you know how to angle it against wind and rain. The superpower is sleeping well. Good sleep makes you smarter, calmer, and harder to break. In a long emergency, the person who rests wins. Number 10. Layer clothing. Like you mean it. Clothing is survival gear that people forget because they already own it. The skill is knowing how to layer properly, so you can adapt without sweating yourself into a cold later. Think in 3 simple layers. A base layer that manages sweat, a middle layer that holds warmth, and an outer layer that blocks wind and rain. If you get sweaty, you cool down fast when you stop moving, and that's how people get miserable. Dry socks become a big deal fast, especially if you're walking more than usual. Foot care is a straight-up superpower. Keep feet clean, dry, and protected, and deal with rubbing early. A small blister that you ignore can turn into, "I can't walk," and that changes your whole situation. Also, learn the habit of dress for the stop, not the start. When you first step outside, you should feel a little cool. If you feel warm immediately, you're going to overheat once you move. For home preparedness, set aside a simple grab pile of weather-appropriate clothes. Nothing tactical, just practical. Gloves, hat, warm socks, rain layer. In an emergency, comfort isn't luxury. Comfort is performance. Number 11. Tie knots that solve real problems. Knots are one of those basic survival skills that sounds old-fashioned until you need one, and suddenly nothing else works. Tape runs out. Plastic clips snap. A good knot just sits there doing its job. The superpower isn't knowing 50 knots. It's knowing a handful that cover most situations. One that makes a fixed loop, one that tightens and holds tension, one that joins two lines, and one that ties down a load securely. That's it. With those, you can hang gear, secure a tarp, lash something to a cart, fix a broken strap, or keep a door from swinging in the wind. In urban survival, cordage plus knots can turn into quick repairs. Bundling boards, hanging a privacy sheet, creating a makeshift clothesline for drying socks and towels. If you're a beginner prepper, practice when you're not stressed. Tie them while watching a show, then try again without looking. Because the real test is doing it with cold hands, low light, and zero patience left. The superpower is flexibility. Knots turn random materials into a system, and systems beat raw strength every time. Number 12. Repair skills beat shopping habits. Modern life trains you to replace things. In a long emergency, replacement turns into not an option. So your superpower becomes basic repair. Sewing, patching, and simple fixes that keep your stuff working. Start with the most useful skill. Stitching a tear so it doesn't spread. You don't need to be a fashion designer. You need to be able to close a rip in pants, patch a jacket, and fix a strap on a bag. A needle and thread weigh almost nothing, and they can extend the life of your gear by months or years. Then learn patch logic. If something is ripping, you reinforce around the damage, not just the damage itself. Duct tape is handy, but it's not magic. When it fails suddenly. Sewing is slower, but it's dependable. Also, get comfortable fixing little household problems. Tightening screws, replacing a basic seal, stopping a leak with the right kind of temporary patch until you can do a proper fix. In home preparedness, the person who can keep doors closing, windows sealing, and bags holding together is basically the team's magician. The superpower is staying operational, while other people's one small break turns into a full shutdown. Number 13. Maintain tools so they don't betray you. A dull tool is frustrating at best and dangerous at worst because you start forcing it, and that's when accidents happen. Tool maintenance is a quiet superpower. You spend a little effort up front, and you save a lot of effort later. Keep it simple. Clean tools after use, keep them dry, and store them where they won't rust or get lost. Learn basic sharpening for the tools you actually use. Kitchen knives, scissors, maybe a small utility blade, because sharp edges let you work with control instead of muscle. The same goes for things like saws and pruners. If they're clogged with sap and grime, they stop working well. In an emergency, you want tools that do what you expect. This is also about safety habits. Use gloves when it makes sense, cut away from your body, and don't do complicated tasks when you're exhausted and irritated. A lot of survival prepping for beginners focuses on buying tools. The real advantage comes from knowing how to keep a few tools working reliably. The superpower is consistency. When you can trust your tools, every other job becomes smaller, faster, and less risky. Number 14. Communicate clearly when everyone's confused. In a crisis, information becomes its own kind of currency. The superpower isn't having the fanciest radio setup. It's being the person who can get a message across without drama, and who can verify what's real. Start with basics. Keep contacts written down somewhere, because phones die and accounts lock you out. Agree on simple check-in plans with your people. Who calls who, where you meet if things go sideways, and what counts as, "we leave now." If you do use radios, learn basic etiquette. Keep messages short. Say the important part first. Confirm you were understood. In family preparedness, this prevents panic spirals where everyone repeats the same thing 5 times and still doesn't know the plan. Another big part is knowing where to get reliable updates. Official local alerts, weather updates, and community announcements, not just social media noise. In urban prepping, a little communication skill reduces conflict too. When neighbors are stressed, the person who can speak calmly and clearly becomes a stabilizer. The superpower is reducing confusion. Confusion burns time, and time is always more valuable than people think. Number 15. Manage power, like it's a limited resource. When the power goes out, people instantly waste the power they still have. They crank screen brightness, leave devices searching for signal, and drain batteries just to feel normal for a couple hours. The superpower is treating electricity like food. portion it, protect it, and use it where it matters. Learn the simple battery hierarchy. What uses a lot of power? Space heaters, cooking appliances, constant video streaming, versus what uses little? LED lights, radios, basic charging. In a preparedness setup, aim for redundancy. More than one way to produce light, more than one way to charge critical devices, and a plan for when everything runs down. Keep charging cords organized, keep a small stash of batteries in known sizes, and don't let everything scatter into random drawers. Solar chargers and power banks can be helpful, but only if you actually understand your needs. If your goal is, keep a phone alive and run a small light, that's doable. If your goal is, run a whole house like normal, that's a different conversation. Beginner's Guide to Prepping gets way easier when you stop chasing fantasy setups and start managing real priorities. The superpower is stretching power, so your tools still work days later, not minutes later. Number 16. Preserve food without getting risky about it. A lot of people think food preservation is either grandma magic or hardcore homesteading. It's neither. It's just a set of skills that turn food right now into food later. Well, the superpower is reducing waste. Drying is one of the simplest. Many foods last longer when moisture is reduced and they're stored properly. Fermenting can stretch vegetables and add variety, but you have to respect cleanliness and reliable methods. Canning is powerful too, but it's not the place to freestyle. Especially for low-acid foods, you need tested procedures and proper equipment, because safety matters. A beginner prepper move is to start small and boring. Learn how to store staples correctly, keep pests out, and rotate what you eat. Then build up to preservation methods you can do confidently. Even simple habits help. Portion foods so you only open what you can use, keep spices and oil sealed, protect food from heat and sunlight, and don't store everything in one spot where a single leak ruins it all. In prepping and emergency preparedness, the person who can keep food usable over time becomes everyone's favorite person. The superpower isn't hoarding, it's extending. Number 17. Grow something even if it's tiny. You don't need a farm to benefit from growing food. In fact, in urban prepping, a small container garden is often more realistic than big backyard dreams. The skill here is learning plant basics: sunlight, water, soil, and patience. Start with beginner-friendly plants that give a good return. Herbs, leafy greens, maybe tomatoes or peppers if you have enough sun. Learn what overwatering looks like, learn how to spot pests early, and learn how to save seeds from plants that are easy to save seeds from. Even if it doesn't fully feed you, it does 3 big things. It adds nutrients, it adds routine, and it adds confidence. Growing also teaches you how fragile food systems can be, and how much you can improve with simple consistency. In a long emergency, fresh greens can feel like a luxury, and that matters more than people admit. If you're building a prepper stockpile, gardening also helps you stretch it. Stored staples plus fresh additions equals better meals and better health. The superpower is renewal. Everything else in preparedness feels like you're slowly using things up. Growing is one of the few skills that creates more. Number 18. Understand weather like it's free information. Weather is the most ignored intel source, and it's literally floating above your head. The superpower is learning to read basic signs and plan around them, because weather can wreck your shelter, your travel, your mood, and your safety. You don't need to be a meteorologist. You just need to notice patterns. Wind shifts, sudden drops in temperature, fast-moving clouds, and the difference between annoying rain and this could flood. If you rely on forecasts, great when you have them. But practice the habit of checking the sky, checking the air, and checking your surroundings. In home preparedness, weather awareness helps with simple decisions. When to fill extra water containers before a storm, when to bring things inside, when to charge devices, when to avoid travel. In a grid-down situation, weather planning becomes even bigger because your heating, cooking, and movement all depend on it. Beginners often underestimate how quickly wet and cold can drain energy. The superpower is timing. If you do the hard stuff before the bad weather hits, you save yourself a fight you didn't need. Number 19. Build an inventory brain, not just an inventory pile. A prepper stockpile is only useful if you can actually use it. Otherwise, it's just a clutter collection that makes you feel safe for 5 minutes and stressed for 5 months. The superpower is inventory management, knowing what you have, where it is, what condition it's in, and what you're missing. Keep it simple. Group items by purpose water, cooking, medical, hygiene, light, repairs, and store them in a way that makes sense when you're tired and the lights are out. Label bins. Keep a small list. Rotate supplies like you rotate groceries. If you're doing emergency preparedness for beginners, start with the basics you'll use anyway. Extra soap, extra shelf-stable food you actually eat, spare batteries, a few reliable lights, basic first aid, and a way to cook. Then build slowly. One of the best prepping hacks is making a normal life rule. If you don't use it, you don't restock it. That keeps your supplies realistic. Another overlooked skill is sharing inventory knowledge with your household. If only one person knows where everything is, you have a single point of failure. The superpower is speed under stress. When something happens, you don't dig through closets. You reach, grab, and solve. Number 20. Make people skills your unfair advantage. Here's the truth that a lot of survival content dodges. Most long emergencies are social. You're dealing with family, neighbors, stressed strangers, and 1,000 awkward conversations about resources, rules, and boundaries. Your superpower is being someone who can cooperate without being naive and set limits without turning everything into a fight. That starts with communication. Speak plainly, don't overpromise, and don't escalate. De-escalation is a real skill. Lower your voice, slow your pace, ask simple questions, give people space to save face. In community preparedness, that matters more than any gadget. Then there's negotiation and trade. You don't need to be a smooth-talking hustler. You need to be fair, consistent, and clear. Trades go better when both sides feel respected and nobody feels tricked. Also, learn group habits that keep tension down. Clear chores, clear expectations, and small routines. Routine sounds boring, but it keeps people from spiraling. And finally, mindset. Not in a cheesy, positive vibes only way. More like, you keep moving, you keep priorities simple, and you give yourself something to do each day that makes tomorrow easier. In an apocalypse-style situation, the person who can keep relationships stable and minds steady becomes the person everyone wants around.